Welcome to today's meeting of the Bass Coast Shire Council, Wednesday the 19th of April 2023. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online in accordance with the council's live streaming policy and governance rules. To members of the public joining us in the gallery today, by attending this public meeting of the council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Chair or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate or unacceptable behaviour or comments. Thank you. Please turn off all mobile phones, telephones, or in the case of an emergency, please advise the chair and switch to silent mode. I'll just make sure mine is right, which it is. So the statement of acknowledgement. Bass Coast Shire Council acknowledge the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters and pays respects to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and law. Bass Coast Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Island communities in their diversity. Bass Coast Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal or Torres Strait Island people. Now I would like to call on Councillor Holstead to read the councillor statement, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on this evening's agenda based on the individual merits of each item without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or vote on the issue. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. We have three apologies today: Councillor Les Lark, Councillor Letitia Lang and Councillor Brett Tassari. There are no declarations of interest. So I call on a councillor to move and one to second that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 15th of March 2023 be confirmed. That's Councillor Bauer and Councillor Lasser. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. Mayor and councillor reports will be submitted and recorded in the minutes. That brings us to public question time. Our first question is from Kevin Griffin, Inverloch Shared Pathway. Last month, council claimed that Deakin will not permit the continuation of design option 2 from Ozone Street into Garrote Street. Will council now publish to its website without redaction, all past and future communication between council and Deakin which relate to stage 3A and or stage 3B of the pathway? CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Engage Bass Coast has comprehensive information to inform the community about this project. Council is engaging with DECA on options for the next stage of the Surf Parade shared path. To date, all indication from the state government has been that any vegetation removal or encroachment into the sand dunes will not be supported. Council will continue to explore the most environmentally sensitive design option for this project and engage with the Inverloch community on this design response in the coming months.
Question 2 is Kevin Griffin. Unreasonable conduct by customers policy. The UCC requires that a review be undertaken 12 months after restrictions are initially imposed. It is more than 12 months since the CEO began intercepting and censoring my correspondence to councillors. How much longer does the CEO intend to continue intercepting and censoring my communications with our elected representatives? CEO, please.
Through the Mayor, the unreasonable conduct by customers policy requires a review every 12 months. Your next review date is the 29th of June 2023, 12 months after your meeting with the CEO.
Question 3, Nathan Smith, social and affordable housing. 1, in the absence of their own social and affordable housing strategy, how does the council justify recommending sites to Community Housing Victoria for future development? What is council's response to the immediate neighbours of the proposed social and affordable housing sites who will see an instant evaluation of their property?
Through the Mayor, The Healthy Communities Plan 2021 to 2025 has a clear objective to support social and affordable housing in Bass Coast. Any impact on property values is subjective. However, the impact on property values is not a planning consideration. This is a widely held planning principle that has been established at VCAT.
Question 4 is Graham Jolly, state debt. It's been reported that the state government has massive net debt increasing daily. Council advocates to the state government for grant funds for shovel-ready operational and capital projects. What advocated projects will be delayed or affected due to the state debt?
Through the Mayor, Council is awaiting the release of the state government budget to understand if any projects or programs are impacted. And it is vital that the state government maintains grant programs to offset the impact of rate capping, particularly in an environment where the rate cap is not keeping pace with inflation.
Next one, Graham Jolly, Cowes Cultural and Community Centre. A worker constructing the new Cowes Cultural and Community Centre commented, indicating council changed the build plans after the initial plans were received, cost and approval given to build. During the build, multiple inclusions and changes have occurred. Would council please explain?
Through the Mayor, McCorkle Constructions were appointed in October 21 under a design and construction contract to deliver the Cowes Cultural and Community Centre. It is a normal process for adjustments to be made when using a design and construct approach. Gillian
Mitchell, Special Charges Scheme. Are the current roadworks to seal Shetland Heights Road and San Remo being funded by a special charge scheme, or is the majority of funding being provided by council? What percentage of the seal roads in Newhaven, Mill and Cowes have been funded by special charge schemes?
Through the Mayor, Shetland Heights Road was funded by a federal government grant and developer contributions. A percentage of road network funded through special charge schemes is not recorded on council records.
Kim Lightfoot, Arts and Cultural Plan 2015 to 2019. Council Arts and Cultural Plans 2015 to 2019 on page 8 states, this plan will be reviewed in 2016-17 with the inclusion of a detailed action plan. What is causing the delay in updating this 2015-2019 plan?
Through the Mayor, the review of Council's Arts and Cultural Plan 2015 to 2019 began in 2018 and following extensive community consultation was replaced by the Bass Coast Shire Council Arts and Cultural Strategy 2019 to 2029 as adopted by Council in 2019.
Kim Lightfoot, Foreshore and Bushland Reserve Use Policy. Council's Foreshore and Bushland Reserve Use Policy dated 20th September 2017, page 4, states, Council will review this policy within 4 years of its adoption. When will this policy be reviewed and updated?
Through the Mayor, the Foreshore and Bushland Reserve Use Policy is currently under review.
Malcolm Pilkington, Council Plans. The Building Asset Management Plan 2016 has a life of 4 years and will be updated at that time. What is causing the delay in updating this 2016 plan? Bass Coast Shire Aspirational Network Pathways Plan 2016. When will Council review this plan?
Through the Mayor, the Building Asset Management Plan will be reviewed in 2023 to 2024 and is listed as an initiative in Council's draft 23-24 budget. The Tracks and Trails strategy replaces the Aspirational Network Pathways Plan 2016.
Melissa Day, Council Plans. Council's Biodiversity Biolinks Plan 2018 as part of Council's Municipal Strategic Statement as clause 21.04-3, Biodiversity Conservation and Habitat Protection, page 12. Council is reviewing its planning scheme through the government. When will this plan be reviewed? Air Creek Reserve Management Plan June 2016, page 43 states a final review 2022 of the implementation of the plan. This plan is overdue. What is causing the delay?
Council, through the Mayor, Council's Biodiversity Biolinks Plan was adopted in 2018 and is due for review in 2023. The Air Creek Reserve Management Plan was developed to guide Council's management of the reserve over 5 years. Recommendations within the plan will inform Council's approach to evaluation and review.
That's the end of the questions. Notice of motion, there are none. What have I done? Hang on, I just don't got a prompt here. You can see that. Before we end question time, council has received further questions regarding the Surf Beach Sunderland Bay potential special charge scheme, and these questions have been assessed as subject matter already answered. Council has responded to questions on this subject matter at the last 5 council meetings. Council acknowledged the community interest in this project and is frequently reviewing and updating the already detailed information on Engage Bass Coast. This will continue to be our practice until council makes a decision on the project. All right, so I jumped ahead. There were no notices of motion, as I indicated. In terms of petitions, a copy of the petition against Sunderland Bay Surf Beach potential special charge scheme with additional signatures was provided to council. Council received the petition at the February 2022 council meeting. Therefore, the copy does not need to be presented again. The additional signatures have been provided to the responsible department. And that brings us to reports requiring council decision. And this is the draft 2023-2024 budget. And I call on Mr. Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval to release the draft 2023-24 budget, draft annual action plan and draft fees and charges for community consultation. A financially responsible approach has been applied in setting the draft budget through a robust process that included top-down revenue and expenditure targets, complemented by bottom-up budgets for labour costs and contract cost escalations. This has resulted in a proposed 3.5% rate increase in line with the state government rate cap, with the rate cap being significantly lower than the current inflation rate for the second year in a row. This outcome has been achieved without any reductions in service levels or standards. The draft budget is aligned to the long-term financial plan and maintains the scope and standard of existing services while investing in the future of the Shire by funding a capital works program of over $29 million. Council has reviewed the draft fees and charges 23-24, and these have been adjusted to ensure that an equitable balance between user-funded services and ratepayer-funded services is maintained. The draft budget maintains Council's strong working capital position with borrowings well within prudential ratios, an operating surplus of $5.2 million and a balanced funding statement position. I note that 2 pages were replaced in the published attachment. The submission period will close at 5 p.m. on Monday the 15th of May and submissions will be considered by Council on Wednesday 24th of May. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Just before I call on councillors to move and second, I just want to encourage the community to attend the engagement sessions. This is an exposure draft of the budget and it's the community's opportunity to provide input and reiterate that the feedback is open until the 15th of May. And have a councillor to move and a councillor to second that. Councillor Lasserve, seconded Councillor Hawkes. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm certainly happy to move this draft budget for community consultation. The draft budget does include a 3.5% rate increase in line with the state government's mandated rate cap, which is less than what was recommended by the Essential Services Commission of 4%. I mean, council could have gone to the Essential Services Commission for rate increase, but we chose not to at this time, given it's unrealistic in these economic times. This budget reflects the ongoing focus on opportunities for productivity improvement and financial efficiencies. We will be paying down borrowings at $3.7 million, which is an encouraging factor. Capital Works program investment is maintained at $29.41 million in funding. We understand that the community want to see their projects funded. However, there will still be groups that will miss out in this time round. The calling for public submissions doesn't necessarily guarantee that they will get their funding, but it's an opportunity. However, there is a burden of cost increase, which is reflected in the recommendation for the waste charges increase, and that is of $59.75. That's been several factors contributed to that increase in contracts and the number of curbside waste collections and the additional generation of leachate impacts and licensing costs. The waste service operations is a user pay service. I am pleased that within the draft budget that we have supported once again the agricultural community with a 80% differential rate component, and also the opportunity to be able to apply for the rural land management rebate. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Serb. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. There's been plenty of discussion around finances and budgets globally and nationally here in Australia, and also within our state. You would notice with the budget coming up, and it looks like there's going to be a reduced budget around services as well with the state level. And for us local council, we're not immune to the pressures that are around with regards to finances at the moment. One of the big issues that's been mentioned by Mr Mack was that the CPI has been greater than their rate increases over the last year, and will probably happen this year as well. Last year's difference was 4%, and we can expect in this budget a 2% difference. And that puts pressure on our revenue, which is not keeping up with our costs. And that makes for a very tight budget. However, there is positive news, and through this budget planning process, we've been able to reduce our borrowings with the early repayment of $3.7 million in debt. I'd also like to note that our total borrowings in the 4-year plan are peaking around 30 million, which is around 12 million less than what was projected in previous years. And this helps reduce our financial risks whilst we still maintain a strong investment in capital. And we continue our commitment to our capital works program of $29 million next year, and I'm pleased we have the capacity to borrow in the future in the event we receive significant grant funding for major projects. As I previously mentioned, it is a tight budget and it's hard to get everything included into the budget. And I really do appreciate that. And this is a council presented budget. And I just want to mention on a personal note, I was hoping that the accelerated BioLinks program and urban forest strategy would also make the budget. I feel they have strong alignment to our community's wishes and our council plan, and that these two initiatives are supported by our climate change plan, the recognition of our area as a distinctive landscape, and you'll soon be made aware through the release of our economic discussion paper that the natural environment is clearly recognised as integral to our economy. So I look forward to the community's feedback on this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Does any other councillor wish to speak on the draft budget? Councillor Hosking, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our council has requested that council be restrained in its approach to the budget this year, keep the capital works program within limits that are deliverable in the 12-month budget cycle in order to reduce carryover amounts while continuing our commitment to multi-year intergenerational projects, and I'm pleased to see this has been achieved. Times have been challenging with price escalations in construction materials and expertise, combined with a growing municipality requiring increased investment in service levels, and all of this in an economically volatile environment. I think this budget strikes a balance. Council's financial position remains within Bargo's low risk range, is a sound result and a credit to our officers. The forward estimate on debt, as Councillor Rooks pointed out, by 2025 has been reduced significantly from 43 million to 30 million, and council is aware that given the current economic climate, reducing debt is crucial. Officers have been well focused and successful in securing crucial grants to help in the provision of infrastructure and services needed across the Shire, as well as ordering materials well in advance to capitalise on prices before expected price escalations. There has been no doubt that state and federal capital grants are likely to dry up given the projection of a $200 billion state debt. This is likely to impact on council's ability to deliver new capital projects within the strategic resource plan over the next 4 years. It highlights the reliance council has on the state government following the introduction of capped rates, and the cynic in me says that that's exactly where they want us. It's important that council continues to take a fiscal approach while navigating the ever-changing economic climate and advocating strongly for continued investment through grants to ensure the infrastructure and services for a growing municipality keep up with demand, all while we continue to manage current assets requiring upgrades. It's a real balancing act. Mr Mayor, if I could take a moment to highlight a few standout projects with the funding of Kilcunda Bass Football Club for 500,000, the Coronella Pathway, 300,000, the funding of the significant tree register, which I think is critical for Bass Coast, the development of the mountain bike BMX pump strategy, which I know that the younger community are really excited about, the guiding principles for the establishment of the inland dog off-leash areas, which another recreational part of our community is excited about. And I'm really pleased to see that the continuation of the town plan for San Remo is included, and that's including the structure plan and the town centre. These are just a few of the many worthy projects in the budget, and it is these on the ground outcomes that community appreciates and councillors do too. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Lasserve, anything to say in reply?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank the officers and the council team for putting the report together and for the considerations in that report. The community submissions, as we've said, open tomorrow, which is Thursday, the 20th of April, and close Monday, the 15th of May. Engage Bass Coast is the platform that people can have one opportunity, but there will be engagement sessions at Granville, Cowes, Inverloch and Wonthaggi for people to attend in person. Council submissions will be heard on Wednesday, the 24th of May. So I encourage the community to put forward your submissions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lasserve. Those in favour? That's carried. All right, that brings us to 8.2, planning application 220259 100 Church Street, Cowes. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present planning application 220259, which seeks to construct 10 dwellings in a general residential zone and design and development overlay, removal of vegetation and a vegetation protection overlay, and removal of easements E1, E2 and common property on title. The application is before council due to the value of construction and the application receiving 17 objections. Objectors' concerns have been considered and the application has been assessed against the Bass Coast planning scheme. It is recommended the council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit as per the conditions and amendments outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. I have a councillor to move and a councillor second. Councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. This is another example of high density living close to the township of Cowes. We've seen quite a bit of this recently. And it's very appropriate that it does happen close to the towns. The necessary amenities that people need, shops, schools and public transport, they can all walk to, including the new hospital, of course, and the medical facilities that are available. So it takes cars off the streets and that's a good thing as well. I do recognise this application has 17 objections. And having looked through those objections and seen the council officers' responses, it does still demonstrate that this permit application fits within the relevant planning policies. There was one exception to this, and that was noted by the officers, and that was in the back of this application, units 5 and 10. The applicant had put some stairs leading up to a third floor deck to try to gain the views they could from there. And this part does not fit within the conditions, planning conditions, issues with overlooking and impacting the views. And we thank the community for providing that feedback and for the officers for taking that out. So that's been removed as part of the condition of this permit. But overall, I support the recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors, ratepayers watching this meeting and people in the gallery. I am seconding this motion to approve the bill, although I'm not happy at all. By the Bass Coast Shire planning guidelines, this development ticks all the boxes, and yet it is this type of development that we should discourage for our island. More and more we're seeing this type of multi-dwelling infill development being undertaken, which puts dwellings cheek to jowl with barely room for a plough up between the houses. One can't blame the developers for trying to get the biggest bang for buck, but the long-term consequences for our community is that we have to live and look at the final outcome for years to come. We need to look at our planning scheme as soon as possible so that our neighbourhood character policy retains some relevance. I see no point in objecting to this development, as I'm sure VCAT would approve it, and any challenge to this application would be a waste of money for council. So with great reluctance, I consign agenda 8.2 to the chamber for debate.
Thank you, councillor Bauer. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Holstead.
Yes, just quickly, Mr Mayor, I get councillor Bauer's point here, and it has been incredibly frustrating to wait out the distinctive area and landscapes submission panel to come to a decision, because everything that we're doing to try and protect our neighbourhood character has to go on hold until that process has been completed. But I do know that the officers have done the background work for the neighbourhood character and the housing strategy, amongst a lot of other policy and strategy work they've been doing in the planning department. And I'm really looking forward to that work being completed and giving us a little bit more opportunity to, you know, ensure that our neighbourhood character is not lost.
No, it's noted.
Councillor, we don't have cross dialogue. Have you finished, councillor Holstead?
Yes.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Rooks, do you wish to speak and reply?
Only that I think we need to understand that if we're going to close our town boundaries, which is what is something the community has been pushing for some time, the pressure has to come somewhere. So it does make sense to end up having greater high-rise, not high-rise, but greater high-density development, I should say, close to the towns. And so it does make sense.
Thanks, councillor Rooks. I will put that motion. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. This brings us to the policies, 8.3 policies review. Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend that council resolve to revoke the listed policies, note the superseded policies contained within the report. Council officers have undertaken an audit of council adopted policies to ensure they are current and still meet council needs. This recommended 28 policies are revoked or noted as superseded for a range of reasons, including they are now covered within legislation, they are within other strategic documents of council, or they are no longer current, and other work is being undertaken to guide policy requirements as detailed in the report for each policy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Can I have a councillor to move and councillor second the report? Councillor Holstead and councillor Rooks. Councillor Holstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I do see this as a bit of a tidy up, and I'm really pleased to see officers have been doing a lot of this work where we're streamlining and trying to provide consistency across the organisation. And I congratulate the officers. I know that's been a huge job. This is part of that process of, you know, just streamlining the work that they need to do. All of the conditions I've been assured through my conversations have been picked up in policies that have replaced these ones on the list here. So I have no hesitation in supporting it, and I look forward to, you know, it being a time-saving measure in the end. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
Thanks, Mayor Whelan. Yeah, it's not just a good news story for the council officers that have to work with all these policies, but also for the community. So they only have to go to one policy now to understand what's going on, as opposed to possibly getting conflicting policies or out-of-date ones. So this has been a great piece of work.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? If not, councillor Holstead, are you happy to put it to a vote?
Happy to put.
Those in favour? That's carried. That brings us to 8.4 Crown Land Policy, and Mr Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to respond to Council's resolution from June 2022 regarding management of Crown land and recommend that Council commences community consultation on a draft Crown land policy. Council manages 126 hectares of Crown land reserves, including recreation and open space, coastal reserves, bushland, civic and community facilities. Council invests millions in operating and capital costs in managing, maintaining or delivering assets on Crown land in any given year. As highlighted through the budget development, Council is operating in a more financially constrained environment, and the draft policy sets out the principles for Council's investment and management of Crown land. We are seeking to engage with the community on the draft policy, acknowledging the significant role that many volunteers and community members provide in managing land and delivering services for our community.
Thank you, Mr Matt. Can I have a councillor to move and second? That's councillor Holstead, seconded.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move with a couple of questions if I can.
Okay, we'll just handle this part first and seconded councillor Rooks. Go with the questions first, councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to ask officers where the list identifies committee of management. Are these committees managed by council? And if so, is council remunerated for the management of those committees?
Through you, Mr Mayor. So there's a range of land management options that are outlined in the report. Where council is appointed as the committee of management for Crown Land, council officers perform those responsibilities on behalf of council, and typically we don't receive funding to do that.
Thank you.
Another question?
No, that's
it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Just want to clarify it for my notes. This notice of motion, or this resolution came about for one of my notices of motion back in June 2022. So I'm really pleased to see the policy now before us, councillors. And as stated in the report, for many years, local government has been relied upon to pick up land that other levels of government are responsible for. And when local land or infrastructure is left to deteriorate, it's local government, often mistakenly, that is approached to fix it. Residents just want council to fix the problem. They don't really care where the money comes from or who's responsible. But I'd like to say that they should. They should care, because I'm going to call a spade a spade. And for this one, if it hasn't smacked you in the face by now, I don't know what will. This report clearly shows ratepayers that an indirect tax has been applied via their rates for many years, and it's called cost shifting. As our community's budgets have been squeezed through cost of living, so has councils, who have also been restrained by rate capping, legislative changes and expectations that are unreasonable. For example, insurance costs on non-council buildings. The policy will provide a clear set of principles to guide decision-making to ensure that we only accept management of land that provides a clear and sustainable benefit to our community and the delivery of council services. The policy before us aims to ensure the costs are borne by those levels of government that are responsible for it, not through rates that have been redirected from council infrastructure and service needs for years. I would like to see council go a little further by investing in signage that states who is responsible for maintaining land and infrastructure across the Shire, with contact phone numbers. So it's clear to the community, contrary to a lot of people's belief, that not all land in our Shire is owned by council. And some of the responsibility, in fact, the majority of it, lies on other levels of government. And that we as a council should not be contributing via our rates to things that taxes should be paying for. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
I had my notes, but I think councillor Holstead's covered most things really well. I do like the idea of that sign, councillor Holstead. I wonder if the state government would be willing to put it up. That was my first thought.
No, I don't think so.
But I guess the system at the moment is not working for a couple of reasons. One, because it's very ad hoc. It just tends to be the bigger player, which is the state government, tends to make the decisions and push things against the local councils. And it's been getting worse over recent times. And it's just not sustainable for our local council to continue this way. So I'm really pleased that, and again, I think we're a bit of a leader here with this policy coming forward within councils. And so I'm really pleased that we're doing it. And I'll be interested to see the community's feedback on it. I'm pleased that we're making the commitments in the long-term financial plan for those commitments were already made towards the Crown Land, any buildings within that. So I'm glad that we're doing that. But in the long term, after that's expired, it will be a good reduction in spending for our council. So let's see how it goes.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Another councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I certainly agree. It's been, if councillors and the council get confused about who's a responsible authority over Crown Land, the community have probably got no hope. It has been historically very difficult over the years because we know we've got a number of community groups that are seeking funding to upgrade their facilities and everything. And it's very hard to go back to them all the time and say, no, it's on Delpal Decard land. It's not council's responsible authority. As I just wanted to reiterate though that if we setting out this draft policy, it could save council hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long term. But there is a commitment in the long-term financial plan, which means that the ones that are on the list, for the next 8 years, will be there'll be some further support for them. But after that, I think that we need a clear direction of what is council's responsibility and what the state's responsibilities are to their assets on their land. So I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Holstead, do you wish to say anything in reply?
Nothing other than I'm sensing a lot of support for this and I'm really pleased that it's happening. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
All right, thanks, councillor Holstead. Put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to 8.5, award of tender number 22019, professional engineering consultancy services, including public and sports lighting, arborist and landscapes architects. Mr Sturton, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present tender number 22019 and confirm a consultancy panel of professional consultants for council-led design projects. The panel contains civil and structural engineers, traffic and transport engineers, asset management practitioners, geotechnical engineers, surveyors, environmental and heritage experts, recreation consultants, hydrologists, lighting consultants, arborists and landscape architects. Confirming this consultancy panel will help expedite design projects and enable continued improvement of Council's capital works program. This consultancy panel has been procured in partnership with Cardinia Shire Council and adheres to Council's quadruple bottom line procurement policy. The professional consultancy panel is presented for adoption. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Could I have a councillor to move and councillor to second that report, please? Councillor Lasserve and councillor Rooks. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I don't think there's much to really add to what Mr Sturton has said to this report. I think it's a good thing. It's a register of those people that we can absolutely get on board quickly and get a quick response for tenders that come out. So I think it's great to be having consideration for Cardinia Shire as well. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lasserve. Councillor Rooks.
Yeah, only that we do have a massive capital works program, which we're very proud of as a council. Next year, as in the draft budget, there's $29 million to spend. And so if we can improve some of the back of house efficiencies to make our capital works program more efficient, then that's a good outcome. So I'm really pleased this has happened.
Yeah.
Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Lasserve, shall we put that to the vote? Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to 8.6, award of tender number 23005, Cows Boat Ramp and Jetty Upgrade. Mr Sturton, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present tender number 23005, construction of the Cows Boat Ramp and Jetty Upgrade at the Anderson Street boating facility. This project will be delivered in partnership with Better Boating Victoria, with BBV fully funding the project and council delivering the works on the state government's behalf. This project follows other successful marine upgrade works in partnership with BBV across the Shire, such as the Rill Boating Facility and New Haven upgrade works, which are delivering great recreational outcomes for the community. It is recommended that tender number 23005 be awarded to Bridgewater Marine Proprietary Limited for a contract sum of $2,779,798.41 plus GST. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. A councillor move and second that, please. Councillor Bauer and councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors, ratepayers watching this meeting and members in the gallery. This is a good news. After our successful co-build with Boating Victoria at Rill and New Haven, just to mention two, we are now going to the building stage of the Cows Boat Ramp better known as the Anderson Street Boat Ramp. I've had the privilege of being involved with this project since its inception. Though not all the feedback has been incorporated into the final bill, some of the key deficiencies should be rectified by this bill. The biggest one being the use of the jetty. At present, it is too short and at high tide it is completely underwater. The elevating of the actual ramp should improve the launching of some craft, but due to the shallowness of the gradient, larger boats will always have a problem, especially at low tide. Unfortunately, the recommendation from the community to widen the ramp from 2 to 3 lanes was not included in the final plan. And I'm not a hydrologist, so I'm very curious to see if the new design of the ramp will alleviate the problem with sand build-up, which currently needs to be cleared daily. Having said all that, this is about being a boatie. This new ramp should be a vast improvement on what's there currently. I'm happy to recommend this approval of the tender for this project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Bauer. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. As Mr. Certain mentioned, there's been a number of projects that our council have worked with Better Boating Victoria, and that relationship's really prospered. And Better Boating Victoria is keen to do more work with us, and we're in discussions now to look at the Inverloch boat ramp as well. So that's really good news. This is a really dangerous boat ramp, the one at Cowes, and so it's really important this has happened. It's very exposed to the weather and the tide, and so this will reduce the risk considerably to what currently happens down at that boat ramp. So I'm really pleased this piece of work's been happening. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Holstead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm a bit of a boatie myself, so I couldn't let this one slide without having something to say. Congratulations to the Island Ward councillors because it's your turn, but I wanted to point out that our officers have been working incredibly hard with Better Boating Victoria, and from what I understand, we're leading in the state. We've been really successful in getting most of our ramps upgraded or even replaced, and that's through their tenacity and their continued relationships that they have with Boating Victoria, and it's our community that is benefiting from that. So I really wanted to point that out. And as a boatie, I get it. I get that the ramps can be very difficult and can often be entertaining if you ever want to stand on one of the platforms and watch people launching and retrieving. I have seen some very interesting situations in my time going out on the water. I just wish I had more time to do it because I understand they're getting great tuna out the front at the moment, and I just haven't had any time to go out there and enjoy it. So congratulations, and again, thank you to the officers for continuing to really bang this drum. It's a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. Councillor Bauer, do you wish to say anything in reply? I'll put the motion.
We'll put the motion, otherwise
All
I'll
right.
make official.
Thanks, councillor Bauer. Those in favour? Yeah, that's carried. Which brings us to the statutory reports. So have a councillor move and second that the agenda items 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 and 9.4 be considered as a block, please. Councillor Holstead and councillor Bauer. Those in favour? That's carried. Now, does any councillor wish to discuss any of those reports?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one point to make in the planning and building statistics. Again, and I think I've done this previously, and I hope there are members or officers in the planning department tuning in online to this. I really want to say congratulations to the planning department, who should be proud. You know, they are continually going over and above the state average for stat determinations. And, you know, often councils, you know, the planning departments cop a lot of flack when it comes to these figures. And it really just needs to be highlighted because right across Victoria, the stats are always the thing that the planning department you know, cop a bit of flack over, and ours are consistently over and above the state average. So well done to them, and yeah, keep up the great work. Other than that,
Thank you.
Happy to move.
Any other discussion, councillors? If not, have someone to move that recommendations attached to agenda items 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 and 9.4 be adopted. Councillor Bauer and Councillor Rooks. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. There is no urgent business. That brings us to the announcement of the next meeting of council. The next council meeting will be held on the 17th of May 2023 in the Bass Coast Civic Centre Council Chamber, Radio Street East, 130, commencing at 1 p.m. I thank you all for your attendance, and thanks to our gallery today, both virtual and also in attendance. Thanks very much. And I declare the meeting closed.